how many times do we get in a tough situation of whatever it is, or even, like I'm saying with my special needs daughter, you just feel like it's one thing after another and you're like, I've had enough. I'm done. What more do you want? But then once you get past that tough moment and you step back, you go, I'll keep going. I'll keep going. It's okay. And no matter what, you have the backing of Christ behind you, no matter what.
What's happening, C Squared Nation? It is time for the C Squared podcast. My name is Chris Galashevsky. Alongside, as always, the GM, Mr. Curtis David Heiser. Curtis, how are we today? It was a big day for you.
Very big day. Today finally was the day where I was able to be baptized, and it was a wonderful experience, just like you have stated in the past, Galashevsky. And I don't know about for you, maybe a little bit before you get up there, you kind of just a little bit nerves, maybe, a little bit, unsure, of how things will play out, but nothing quite like the refreshing dunk of your whole body and coming up with new life. And was nice to have my parents there along with my in-laws as well, and my children, and the whole congregation was there. So just really nice. And then, afterwards, everybody was, congratulating and encouraging. And so just really nice to, I don't want to say put that past now, but move forward with that experience. And, to fully commit and move on in a life of Christ, and to die of old ways, or to, push forth towards a new direction at the very least. So, yeah, it was fantastic. A great experience. And, for anybody out there that's questioning, as Galashevsky always says, anybody that's questioning their faith, or whether they want to come to faith with Christ, reach out to us. We both have experienced baptism. We both experienced coming to grow in Christ. We're still growing in Christ. We will never stop. So don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. Everybody's welcome. God's for you.
Amen. Absolutely. And congratulations to you. I know that's a big step. I know it's been something that you've been waiting on, as you said, finally. Is this the same church that you attend, or is this a different church?
No, it's the same church I've been attending now for a couple weeks. And again, it's not even so much, I want to preface that they didn't force me into any kind of being a member of this church or anything like that, because there's some denominations I know that kind of push the whole membership thing before you can get baptized and all that. This is non-denominational. And at the same time, my parents have gone there for a little while now before we started going. And so in the process of when I reached out to my dad, who was a former pastor, about getting baptized, he kind of wanted to have a second person kind of guide the whole thing. Reached out to the pastor of that campus location of where they're going in Altoona. So then we started going there for a couple weeks, and I'd been talking to their pastor as well. And then we kind of just said, hey, I know I've been wanting to do it down here back in the backyard of my behind my house where we have the creek, but 30-degree weather, the ice plunge I'll put off for a little bit.
It hits a little bit different when it's 30 degrees outside.
So I'll admit, it was nice to get into this. What they had was like almost, I don't want to call it a trough, but it's one of those metal bins that's probably about 6 foot long and probably about, I don't know, 3-4 foot high. So and they had with a nice lukewarm water in it. And I will say, when I went to first step into it, of course I'm barefoot, stepping in there, I dang near gave way my footing because I went to plant and I wasn't thinking about it being a metal surface on the bottom, and so it almost went out from underneath me. And of course,
baptism.
Oh, I almost did my own right then and there. Yep.
Yeah, right.
That or the Lord or the devil or whoever was trying to knock me the hell out. But,
Yeah,
we
hey,
managed.
people say that, God works in mysterious ways, well, so does the devil, and maybe that was, the devil's way of saying, "Hey, not today." But
Well,
then that's when
the
you
pastor
that's
grabbed my hand, and steadied me, and then I sat down, and we were good. It wasn't like I said afterwards. I was saying to my parents and even to my wife, I said it wasn't nerves stepping in there. Like I had a steady foot. It was just I planted my foot, and
right.
the whole container's metal, so it just
Yeah,
because it was wet,
yeah, right.
So,
Yeah,
but no,
hey, it happens. I get that for sure. It happens, but it's a good thing that, it all worked out for you and you didn't take the plunge before you, were dipped in, so all is well, all is well.
yeah,
Um, well, before we jump into I'm sure you have a lot to say about your Colts. But before we jump into anything else, since we are on the conversation of faith and Christ, I wanted to share a little bit about the message that was received today at church. We had a guest pastor, someone who's been at our church before and spoke before, and he was at the men's summit last weekend. But he gave his word today was just I thought it was a fantastic word, strong, good word to hear, and I felt compelled to share it. And basically, so I'm not gonna break it down piece by piece, but his overall message was that we need to be willing to go off road. And I say that I kind of Quentin Tarantino, give you the ending before I give you the beginning, so it won't make sense. But the analogy he used with that I thought was fantastic. So he put a picture of, and a couple minutes in, he put a picture of a brand new truck. I don't know what it was, GMC, whatever. You know how much they go for now. But he put a picture of a brand new truck and talked about, what's the purpose of this truck? And it's for, utility purposes, which is, really what a truck is used for. You don't buy a truck unless you're going to use it. You need to haul things, pull
mhm.
things, whatever it may be, tow things, So he put it up there, and it is a beautiful looking truck. But he talked about what percentage? Now, let me ask you this. I'll ask you, what percentage of the trucks that you see on the road do you think are used for its intended purpose?
I don't know if I had to guess 20%.
Okay, so, and not like he had the facts and he gave us, but he was talking about it in much the same. I think he said maybe instead of 80% aren't used, I think it's 90%. But when you think about a truck, you think about a rugged vehicle, off-road rugged vehicle. People buy them and they don't use them for their intended purpose, and they just want it to look good. Not
Mhm.
They're afraid to take it off road. They're afraid to, get it dirty. They're afraid to get to the point of uncomfortability for that truck.
Sure.
Then he shares a picture of a Mercedes like C7 or whatever, the SUV type that's like 180,000 or whatever. And basically said the same thing. People buy it because it looks good and it looks sharp, and people will look at it and say, hey, that's a good looking truck or a good looking SUV, good looking Mercedes. But again, SUV's intended purpose maybe a little off-road, a little off the beaten path kind of vehicle. I mean, hell, SUV stands for a sport utility vehicle, but nobody does it the way unless you own like a Jeep. There aren't people using SUVs and trucks for their intended purpose of getting dirty, being that utilitarian vehicle, if that's even a word. He used it today, so I'm assuming utilitarian is a word. But anyway, um, and his whole point was that as Christians, we are much the same, and we think that on the surface we look good by going to church. We look good by uh, um, saying our piece about going to church or whatever it is, but we're afraid to get off the beaten path and get to that moment of where we might be uncomfortable to share how we feel because of what someone might think or this, that, or the other thing.
Maybe like a Charlie Kirk.
Maybe like a Charlie Kirk. And I just heard that word today, and I just thought that is so powerful because it's so true, and what a great analogy to use. And he left us with two questions. He said, "How thirsty are you?" And "How well do you know the Lord, or do you know the Lord?" What are those two kind of. But in any case, that whole process, like I said, I just wanted to share it because I think it's true. Like we need to look at ourselves like we aren't being used for our intended purpose. What we're doing is just we think it looks good by putting us on this image. Well, go that extra mile, be uncomfortable, share with your friends, even if it offends them or makes them not like you, kind of thing. So again, you brought up Charlie Kirk. I'm not I'm not going to sit here and say that's exactly who we need to emulate, but at the same time, he was not afraid. So we need to continue to not be afraid and go off the beaten path and maybe take that route that we would usually avoid taking to maybe get a little bit dirty and use our truck, if you will, for its intended purpose. And again, I just wanted to share that because it hit home for me, and I know it's got to hit home for somebody else. I'm not the pastor that gave it, so it sounds much better coming from him. But that message is the same regardless, and I think it's something to take to heart and something to really think about, look in the mirror, do some soul searching, and we need to think about how well we are aiming to grow the kingdom and be that intended purpose and not worried about what people might think. Because, and he even alluded to this, we all want to be liked, sure. At the end of the day, if you don't like me, that's fine. But we need to be comfortable with sharing that information despite what it might make somebody think. So I just wanted to share that, take a minute to share that because, like I said, it was, home for me, and hopefully it has that same effect on somebody else.
Well, I agree. I think that's completely right. The phrase that I would use, if you really want to be, I guess the easiest way to put it is a hardcore Christian, a follower of Christ, is get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Because if you're comfortable all the time as a Christian, you're probably not doing enough. And it's not to say that, okay, you're saved by works. That's not my point. The point is, as a Christian, we're called to go out and share the word, spread the gospel with people, to bring people to Christ, to make heaven crowded, as Charlie would say. And um, so if you're comfortable just sitting back and doing what you said about going to church, we dress nice, we sang songs, we listen to the message, we feel good, we go home, we put on some football afterwards, do the week, go back to church, do it again. What are you gaining from it? What are you gaining from it? What is the rest of the world gaining from it? I mean,
Right.
it's easy to do that stuff, but it's much harder to live life in a way that reflects Christ. Christ didn't just sit around and say, "Oh, well, I hope people come to me." No, he went and sought others to spread the message. And so I think that's incumbent upon us, if we're followers of Christ, to go and spread said message,
Mhm.
just as he did. Um, and, there are different situations that may arise, may occur, um, may make things uncomfortable, may have retribution to them. We've seen some of the worst. We've seen it back in the Bible when Stephen was stoned to death for spreading the word. We've seen it where Charlie Kirk was shot and killed for what he believed in. And I'm not saying that every situation is going to be that way, but if we have true faith in Jesus Christ, we know that regardless of what happens here on this earth or how something's handled towards us, and regardless of how many people like us, as long as we're speaking the gospel and the truth, it doesn't matter what happens to us. We have everlasting life. And so it doesn't matter. Um, and it shouldn't matter. It's hard. It's hard to say that though, because, to say that I would be, gung ho and be okay with anything to happen to me, I'd be lying to you, Chris, and I'm not going to lie to
Right.
you. And that's just part of the flesh speaking out, right? But to be absent of the body is to be present with Christ. And so you can't fear that possibly being the case. And so, again, to go back to your point, I think it makes a lot of sense. Get off road, get dirty. It doesn't have to be going and speaking in front of thousands of people.
Right.
It could be whatever situation comes up. I mean, maybe it's a homeless person you see on the side of the road, and You think, "Oh, great, look, there's another bum begging for a buck." Well, maybe that's not the situation. Maybe they need something else. Maybe
Mhm.
I don't know. Anything that happens in your life, sit back, reflect upon it, and kind of think deeper about it. Okay, one, what would Jesus do? I know that's the slogan, but honestly, sit back and ask yourself, without making it about you, what is the Christ-like thing to do? Because that's a lot harder than to just live off of the comfortability of your feelings. Your feelings will always make you feel comfortable if you want to go off of them. And that's the easy thing to do. The harder thing to do is to step outside of those comfortable feelings and say, okay, this is the right thing to do. This is the Christ-like thing to do in whatever the situation may be, whether it's holding somebody accountable or helping somebody out in a tough situation. And that's where you get off road. And then again, it doesn't have to be speaking to thousands, because if you make an impact on even one or two people, that has a ripple effect down the
Mhm.
road, potentially.
And I think that's the biggest thing is that one person can make a huge difference because you don't know who they're going to affect. And even if it's somewhere down the line, that lineage of effectiveness and who you're affecting, it could end up turning into somebody who does impact 1,000 people.
Hmm.
We don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the message is going to do to any person except for make their lives better because there's not one person that can tell me that they heard a good word and they thought, that's not going to make my life any better. Well, yeah, you may not think that, but it will
Right.
because
And
there's nothing better than Jesus Christ. So I mean, how the way you can't just take somebody's word for it. You have to experience it yourself. But in order to do that, you do kind of have to take their word for it and believe it.
mhm,
Because it's not just, the stories that we always hear about, people's testimonies. You can't make that stuff up.
right.
Whatever the testimony is. I saw a video. The guy was talking about, I forget who it was, but he was talking about like, I was an atheist for years, didn't believe in God, but one day I was like, you know, if you're listening, I'm going to talk to you. Prove to me that you exist and that you're real. But if not, I'm going to talk anyway. And he was talking about needing to connect with his mom. It's been 5 years.
You're talking about Patrick Bet David. I saw this, and you're exactly
Okay.
right.
And he
He hadn't
said,
talked to her in 5 years.
yeah, 5 years. He prayed about it. He said 30 seconds later, his phone rang. Now he said my Nextel rang, so he's going back a while. So this is
Hmm.
going back. But he said it was an unknown number, so he didn't want to answer it. But it
Hmm.
was his mom, and she said, I felt that you needed me, or something was wrong, or something like that." And he didn't know how to handle it, so he hung up the phone. You can't make that stuff up. Like, that is not just something that, you're sitting around thinking one day, "How can I get people to believe in something that I don't believe in myself?" Like, that's somebody who said he was an atheist. Why would he make something up to get somebody to believe it when he doesn't believe it in the first place? That's just, to me, I mean, and then at the same time, how can you hear that and not be like, "Why let me get some of that?" Like, but the problem, I think, too, lies in people hear these, it's almost like I don't wanna say it's exactly like it, but people compare themselves to other people all the time,
Hmm.
and they see it happening there to them. It's the gratification that we talked about,
Yeah.
and not to get in another conversation about that, but I think that's what steers people away sometimes, is that they pray once and think, "My prayer wasn't answered. This is a bunch of baloney. What am I doing?" So, I mean,
Well, what people got to realize, though, Galashevsky, is that one, just because you deem yourself or you are a Christian, your walk in this life does not get easier. It gets harder, because
mhm,
if you truly turn to Christ, if you truly repent of what you have been about, that means you are turning to be obedient towards Christ, towards God. And if that is the case, then everything that you start to go through on a daily basis, you start to question. You start to question what you're doing a lot more, because you can kind of sense that some things may not be right. You're starting to see and feel, and that makes you uncomfortable, for one. So you don't feel more comfortable, you feel less comfortable. You start to feel the sin that much more. And so you start to wanna, just move yourself even more towards Christ because you're like, man, I'm not trying to screw this up. I'm trying to live better. I'm trying to live a better life. I'm trying to, live the life that Christ asks us to live, to follow after Him. But at the same time, I think it's important to note, Chris, that it's, and I say this not to be gruesome about it, but you walk the path you walk alone, minus the fact that you walk it with Christ. There's nobody else that can walk it with you. And so to expect to have the same experiences, the same feelings, the same whatever that may have happened to somebody like a Patrick Bet David when he got the phone call from his mom and that kind of a miracle type thing, it's different for everybody because God looks at us as individuals who are carrying out his will. And so to say that, it's going to be a bunch of people and that everybody's going to have your back and that they're going to be walking with you, you can't guarantee that. I would tell everybody right up front, yes, you can have your men's meetings and groups and stuff like that to help encourage you, but your walk with Christ is you and God. That's it. It's not, nobody else can carry it for you. You have to carry it for yourself. And so the expectation that things are going to get easier, um, or that they should be easier, and if they are getting easier, you need to question things because they really should be probably getting harder or at least more uncomfortable. And because, like you said, you really just, if you need to get off the road, you need to do different things and not just be, one trick pony of sorts. Go to church, look nice, sing songs, hear the word, come home, feel good about yourself. That's good. But, you know, being a Christian is going and spreading the word to other people, regardless of what the outcome is.
And it's not even what you do on Sundays. It's
Right.
what are you doing in between.
Yeah, it's everything.
It's so if you are if I go to church Sunday, but I just Monday through Saturday, a couple of those nights I'm getting hammered drunk, going out and doing
Hmm.
ungodly things, and that but I'm right back in the church that following Sunday. It may look good on the surface that I'm there, but it's not looking good in between. It's a lot of it too is you talk about in sports or whatever, characters revealed when nobody's watching.
Yep.
Well, I think the same thing applies here. Yes, you want
Absolutely.
to yes, you want to get the word out there and be that disciple and help grow and build the kingdom. However, I think that's part of the looking good aspect of it. What are you doing when what are you doing when you're not around anybody? Are you opening
Hmm.
your Bible? Are you spending time listening to worship and praising God? Are you reading any type of literature or audiobooks if that's your flavor?
Right.
What are you doing to grow yourself so you can further
Hmm.
grow the kingdom? So I think it very much applies, much like that quote that I said. So again, it's between Sundays. What are you doing
Hmm.
those other 6 days of the week? Because if you leave church and then and you forget about it until the next Sunday comes around, it's all about image for you at that point. It's all about image and nothing else because you don't
Yeah.
know anything else.
I will say this in connection with the message that you had today. The message that we had today at our service was in the book of Jeremiah, and it was talking about everything that he went through with his trials and tribulations and all of his displeasures with God and all the things that he was put through. And in a way, that kind of really spoke to me because I sat back and I went, man, you think you have it bad, and so I sit back and I'm thinking about everything that my wife and I have had to deal with our special needs daughter, and feeling like some days you're put through the ringer on it, and kind of a why God, why me, why us, why does
Mhm.
my child have to have this?
Right.
And the message being, you can be upset with God, but go to God. Don't run away from God. You can have your qualms with God, but go to God regardless. He wants to hear all of it. And then once you've let that grief, let that anger, let that frustration out, you, he still accepts you and he still wants you. And then, you kind of tend to realize, okay, um, now that I got that off my chest, I can handle it. It'll be okay. There's nothing that
Right.
God gives us that we can't handle. And a lot of that was Jeremiah and the book of Jeremiah and what he wrote about and what he faced, in the last when he was ruling Israel, and what he went through. And so I just kind of look at that, and he kind of took the off the beaten path, off roading experience by when Israel got taken down and he was in a pit of mud. They gave him the nation that came and conquered them, gave him the chance to run away with them and leave, and he chose to stay and try to redeem Israel. And
Right.
that speaks words to me. I mean, how many times do we get in a tough situation of whatever it is, or even, like I'm saying with my special needs daughter, you just feel like it's one thing after another, and you're like, I've had enough. I'm done. What more do you want? But then once you get past that tough moment and you step back, you go, I'll keep going. I'll keep going. It's okay. And no matter what, you have the backing of Christ behind you, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on that note, switching gears a little bit. Speaking of having the backing, your Colts have the backing of your boy. No, no, don't put that sign up. I'm not talking about Daniel Jones. I'm talking about Jonathan Taylor,
Yes, sir.
who is just an absolute stud, ripping off another huge run today in their victory over Tennessee, correct, if I'm not mistaken. So, a relative bottom feeder, if you will, but that's
It still
beside the
took
point.
care of business.
That's beside. I was just gonna say that's beside the point because they still took care of business and they're still doing it week after week after week. And at the end of the day, whether a team is 0-6 or 6-0, it's still an NFL caliber team. They're still highly touted athletes. They're still professional athletes. It's still the NFL. And to not use that cliche any given Sunday, but you want to talk about any given Sunday, we had a team, the Atlanta Falcons, beat the Buffalo Bills a couple weeks ago. Now both teams look to be back to their ways of Buffalo, just saying, smacking these teams in the rear end and saying, see you later. And Atlanta struggling. So it happens. And we also know in the NFL, teams have a tendency to play down to their opponents. That
Mm-hmm.
hasn't happened yet with Indianapolis. So they're doing it week after week. And one thing I texted you, and I know, your response was, yeah, it's too early. Right now, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting. Well, let me take that back. I'm not going to bet anything, but right now, the front runner for MVP has to be Jonathan Taylor. Tell me somebody else who's having a better season for their team than Jonathan Taylor. You'd be hard pressed to find me somebody,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's
except for
other
maybe
people.
Daniel Jones.
Well, and that's what I was just going to say. The broadcast crew of this game tonight said, well, you'd throw Daniel Jones in there normally. Jonathan Taylor's on another level. I mean, he had 153 yards rushing today on 12 carries. That's an average of 12.8
Yeah,
yards, people.
I know. It's,
And
I mean,
not to
now
mention,
granted,
I texted you the one where it was they get the ball off of a punt and it's a one play 80-yard touchdown run
but
to the end
see,
zone.
that's the thing though. That was a heck of a run. It wasn't just like he just found a hole up the seam. He
Oh,
created that
yeah.
with
Yeah.
with his elusiveness and his speed, and just
Mm-hmm.
then went up the sidelines. Now, of course, 12 carries. It's the carries and the total yards isn't inflated due to the one run, yes, but that still gives him 11 carries for 65 yards or whatever, which is still pretty darn good. So I
Yeah.
mean, but yeah,
Look,
right
I mean,
now,
there's two things, Galashevsky. One, you talked about teams and who they're playing. And I think a lot of how you end up playing that game and what the outcome is says a lot about the team that you are. And I think you would agree with that because Indianapolis won 38-14 against 1-6 or whatever they were, Tennessee. So naturally you say, oh, yeah. They're playing Tennessee. They're 1-6, blah, 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 blah. But the game wasn't like 23-20 Colts. They
right,
didn't play down to the opponent. They went
right,
out, they took care of business,
yeah,
despite missing starters on the defense still. Yeah, Cam Ward's a rookie quarterback. He's going through the ringer right now. But yeah, I see flashes of greatness in him. I think Cam Ward could be a pretty good quarterback come down the road. But the other point
I
to
agree.
that is, point number two, This speaks to it. How about the Bungles? Let's call them the Bungles again. They lose to 0-7 Jets. I
That
mean, how do
was
you lose to the Jets? Uh,
when you're Cincinnati, and that's the reason why I was so frustrated about the loss against them when Steelers lost to them last week, because it is Cincinnati, and despite that loss, they're still one of, if not the worst team in football. I know the Jets didn't have a win, but the Bengals stink, dude. Now,
they
somebody
do.
might say, "Well, what's this say about the Steelers?" Again, I'm not saying the
That's
Steelers are
you
good right
can't.
now,
That's a one. That's a one game. That's a one off
but
though.
but when you look at this team, the Bengals,
Yeah,
today's game, if
is a
if any
replica of their
team,
entire season.
yeah, basically, if any team had this happen to them today against the Jets, I'd be acting the same way. But this is
Mhm.
the true Bengals team right now. Flacco, did he do some good things today? Yes. Did he do some good things against Pittsburgh? Yes. Can he continue to do that? I don't think so. And that defense is atrocious. You let that that offense of the Jets, without their arguably their best player and
Mhm.
Garrett Wilson, do that to you. Now I know Brees Hall had Brees Hall. I said Brees Hall. What am I thinking? Brees Hall had like 3 touchdowns today,
Yeah.
but still, what are you doing? I mean,
Is
I
Zach
I
Taylor gone after this season?
I don't think so, because they're going to use the excuse, well, he didn't have Burrow for 75% of the season.
Yeah, but that doesn't solve their defense.
No, it doesn't. And they had a poor defense last year too.
Well, hell,
You
I
know
thought
what?
Al Golden might be able to turn that around, but I guess not.
No, I mean, so I think I don't know. I really don't know about Zach Taylor, because I feel like he will get a relative pass, even though it doesn't have anything to do with the defense having Burrow, not having Burrow. But the argument, I guess, could be made that we'll see. Even with a mediocre to poor defense, would having Burrow make a difference? Would Burrow have made a difference? Personally, I don't think so. But I'm not getting paid to coach or
Well,
or,
okay, so
or
maybe they win 2 more games because they're
right.
scoring 50 points to the 45 given up.
Well, yeah. If the NFL had war, it wouldn't be enough to make a difference. It wouldn't be enough to make a difference. I mean,
Listen,
but
hey, how about this stat? How about this? I'll give you 2 stats of the day. Your fact of the day or whatever we were calling them. I forget. What were we
interesting
calling them? We
fact
have
of the day.
interesting fact of the day. We haven't done them in a while. So I'll give you 2. One, Jonathan Taylor with his 2 rushing touchdowns today puts him at 63 rushing touchdowns for the Colts. He is now one shy of the franchise record 64 by Mr. Edrin, the Edge
Adrian James.
James. He tied somebody there. I forget the other guy's name because he was from a little while back. But at any rate, the second interesting fact of the day is the Colts, yet again, despite the big win today, are the only team in the NFL to not have a 100-yard receiver. Pittman with
Wow.
8 catches for 95 yards. Nobody has crossed 100 yards receiving for this team yet this year, and they are 7-1, which when you think about it, I think that speaks to the greatness of the depth of their offense.
Mhm.
And I know this can sound homerish considering I am a diehard Colts fan, but come on, let's be honest. They have weapons across the board, Yalashevsky, everywhere. I mean, they've built a fine-tuned offense with a really good offensive line. It's what makes them dangerous. Yeah, we can say they've played Tennessee twice. They played Miami, but they beat the Broncos. They beat the Chargers. I mean, they have quality wins, and they continue to put up massive amounts of points. So, again, I sit back and I go, I don't know. They're 7-1. I think personally, 3 more wins and they wrap the division already, in my opinion. I mean, it may not officially be wrapped, you know what I mean? It may not be
Right.
like officially, an X next to them that they win the division, but I think 3 more gets it done minimum. I think they only need to get to 10 in that division to really win that. Um, but, again, now they have a stiff test coming up playing at Pittsburgh next week. And I know we were going to probably talk about that a little bit. I know your boys play tonight against the Packers at home. So I'm kind of hoping that your boys win tonight so they can kind of feel a little easy going into next week. And then, wham, we nail them.
Well, before I speak to that at all about the Steelers or even next week's game, not to again not to pull out the cliches, but I don't want to be looking ahead. Now, granted, I'm not the one playing, so it won't affect me at all. It won't affect the outcome, but I don't want to look
Yeah.
ahead. I don't want to put any bad omens out there. But I do want to stick with the course for a minute because I want to for my money right now, Taylor is the MVP. We saw last year, everyone thought Saquon was going to be the MVP with the season he had. So my
Hmm.
question to you is, do you see the MVP ever going to a non-quarterback? Because has it happened? Yes, but it's only happened 4 times since 2000.
Who are the
So
four?
two questions for you. Well, that's what I was going to ask you. But I was going to kind of put you on and say, hey, it's not my running back that could be
Do
potentially
you
going
know
up
all
for it.
four?
I do. I do.
Okay. Okay. I think I can name at least one.
Okay.
I want to say one of them has to be Adrian Peterson.
He was the last one to win it. He won in 2012, I think it was.
Okay. Was there any receivers in there?
No, they're all running backs.
All running backs. Oh
You know what's
boy.
crazy? What's crazy is I had said since 2000 there's only been 4. Well, the
Yeah.
last one was over 10 years ago. So I'm leaving a window of 12 where there's 3, which it's pretty crazy to me. But in any case, yeah, there's 3 more. They're all running backs.
So I got Adrian Peterson. If I, oh boy, maybe, because that's going back a ways too. Um, Maybe Chris Johnson,
1 AFC, 2 NFC. No, not Chris Johnson. Not Y2
Priest
Johnson.
Holmes,
No.
Larry Johnson.
Okay, now you're just naming names just for the sake of naming names.
well, I'm naming running backs that were pretty damn good. I mean, come on
So,
now.
okay, well, think AFC West.
LT. Okay.
Thomason
And
was
then,
like 05, 06. No, 06. 06. He set the
so that
rushing
would have been
record.
around, that would have been around, was Brees still there with the Chargers at that point?
Who?
Drew Brees, because he was with the Chargers initially.
Nate. No, he came when? 03?
So it was somewhere in there before he got traded to the Saints.
I think he got traded after like a year or 2.
Yeah. All right. So LT and Adrian Peterson. Then you said the
No,
other two are NFC?
and Philip Rivers would have been there because he was drafted the same year Ben was. So 05, 06, that would have been Rivers.
Yeah, he came out of NC State.
So yeah, the other one. So you got LT. The other 2 are NFC. NFC West, actually, both of them.
Marshawn Lynch?
No, not Marshawn Lynch, but right team though. Think before Lynch.
Sean Alexander?
Sean Alexander in 05, he set the rushing record with 27 that LT broke the very next year with 28.
And that would have been the year that the Seahawks went and played your boys in the Super Bowl, right?
Yes. Okay, so you got one
Okay.
more. One more. We're going back a little
Oh.
bit. This one came in 2000, but we're
Ooh.
still in the NFC. Well, actually, I don't know if they were the NFC West back then.
Well, Marshall Falk
Yeah, Marshall Faulk was one in
with
2000.
with the Rams, St. Louis
Yeah.
Rams at that point.
Oh yeah, it would have been St. Louis Rams. And I know it wasn't NFC West because they redid the divisions and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the 4. And what's crazy because I knew that, but I was doing a little bit of digging.
Well, I don't think Jonathan Taylor's stats are anywhere online with those 4.
But see what's interesting. So AP won his. He had like just over 2,000 yards when he won.
Mhm.
But those other guys, 1,800 ish, 16 to 1,800. But for LT and Sean Alexander, it was the number of touchdowns. I mean,
Right.
27 and 28 respectively, and in those seasons. I mean, that's absurd. 28 touchdowns in 1 year.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this though, and so they got. I mean, now if a running back got 1,800 yards now, that's a great season. But I feel like it's not, because even going back to seasons where, you mentioned Priest Holmes and you mentioned Larry Johnson. They might have had seasons of 1,300 yards, 1,214, whatever. But that a running back with that outcome this year or anymore is not as heralded as it once was 20 plus years ago. And
Right.
now I think you have to pull off the 18 to 2,200 yards. I mean, maybe 22 is a little bit crazy, but again, when you have guys that are, I mean, hell, Taylor averages pretty much 100 yards a game.
Well, I was going to say, he's at 840 yards rushing for the season, including today's game. He now has 12 rushing touchdowns. So being that they're basically halfway through the season, yeah, he could finish somewhere in that 24 to 25 rushing touchdowns this season, which would be right up there with LT and those guys.
Mhm.
But, his rushing total, granted it's an average, would be right about 1,700 yards. So is that really really good enough to be up there with those guys? I mean, I guess it just depends year to year when you look at it, because I don't think anybody in the quarterback, you know, uh part is really taking off at all.
Right.
Nobody's really flying away with it. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Daniel Jones has played well, but if you're including him as a possible MVP with his numbers, you don't really have any kind of separation out there in the quarterback sphere as of right now that would make them the MVP. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense with Taylor. I think I don't want to take away from Taylor. Taylor's a phenomenal player, but it feels like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, right now it feels like kind of a down year for what you're getting the MVP for based on your statistics.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that, and that's part of the reason why I say outside of Taylor, right now there's no one to me that's like lighting it up so much that they're the odds-on favorite. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Baker Mayfield from what he's been doing this year.
What about
Daniel
Jahmyr
Jones
Gibbs over at
always
Detroit?
say that again?
What about Jahmyr Gibbs over at Detroit?
I mean, see, there's another one that, the numbers he's putting up there, but I think with that, and maybe it kind of leaves a more difficult road for Taylor as well. But I think for Taylor it'd be harder when you're on a team with a quarterback that's in conversation with it as well. Like he
Uh,
would have to do something monumental, or continue this trajectory and continue to have these 150 plus games with 2 touchdowns and big gains. And because I'd say, I don't know though. Speaking of, let me ask, what do you think? What do you think is better, getting those yards off of like one run, or chipping away, getting the 6 yards, the 12 yards, the 9 yards? Just being that true like power, like Jerome Bettis style, or you just have breakaway speed, you find a hole and you're gone.
I mean, I think it's both. I mean, I kind of like the breakaway speed because you're guaranteeing scores a lot easier than the chipaways. The chipaways don't necessarily mean you're getting scores, right? I mean, how many times have
Right.
we see the perfect guy that comes to mind for this, and I think you might agree, is Peyton Hillis. How many times did that guy hit people, get tons of yards, but his team sucked ass and they couldn't win or score on a consistent basis? But Peyton Hillis he was kind of like a Jerome Bettis, like a bowling ball. I mean, he would just, a bulldog. He would just pound at
Cam
people, but it wasn't
Scadaboo.
like, oh, that was a terrible injury. Oh my goodness. I feel bad for that kid. He's definitely done for the year.
Yeah,
Oof.
no kidding.
But
Yeah.
yeah, Cam Scadaboo,
Well, he's having
exactly. And
surgery already.
it's like, so I kind of like the breakaway, honestly, because I think too many times, especially in the NFL, you don't really see the breakaway a lot because defenses are so good in the NFL at stopping anything up the middle. Usually you're having to hit the outside to try to find a hole to get through for a breakaway. Um, but again, I think it's a different era too from back when those guys were playing. And I was also going to tell you that I think I would rather trade. The other thing is, I don't really care if he wins MVP. I would much rather see them get to the AFC Championship or win a Super Bowl this year than him win MVP. Um, and I think I know you would say the same. You wouldn't care if Rodgers won an MVP or what if it came
No.
down to that or winning the AFC. You'd rather them win the AFC than see him win
Oh,
MVP.
100%. Yeah. I mean, as
Um,
cool as it
and
would be.
yeah, I mean it's the one thing. I used to make a big deal about Peyton Manning winning whatever it was, 3 MVPs.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I could go back, I would trade those 3 MVPs for 3 more Super Bowls because, for as great of a quarterback as he was, we got to the Super Bowl twice and won once.
Right.
And for as great as he was, I'd rather trade in the personal statistics and go get another title.
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, speaking of titles and AFC trading MVPs for to win the AFC, the Colts are 7-1 right now. The worst they can finish is 10-7, which we all
It's, you mean the worst they can finish is 7-10?
yeah, 7-10. Well, you're right, 7-10. But we all know that's not going to happen. So maybe the worst is 10-7. I don't know. Where do you go from here? Still a good amount of game left, of ball left. Next week, you obviously have the chance to go to 8-1. What's the ceiling for the Colts this year? Putting your fandom aside, knowing how well they're playing, how they're shaping up against the rest of the AFC. What's the ceiling for the Colts right now? And again, I say put fandom aside because ultimately, obviously, the ceiling is Super Bowl. But is that a legitimate
So ceiling, do you mean how
destination
far
for
they
the Colts?
go or how many wins they get this season?
No, how far can they ride this Daniel Jones train?
Well, okay, I'll give you both sides of the coin then. Win total, I think win total without being a homer, I think is somewhere between 13-4, 12-5, somewhere in there. Is what I would say. Whether that gets them to 1 or not, I don't know. Don't care. I think it's somewhere between 12 and 13 would be my guess.
I mean, if they get 12 wins, that's a 5-4 record the rest of the way. That's not far fetched. I don't think.
No, that's why I'm being honest. I mean, they have
Right.
games at the Steelers, games at the Chiefs. They have at Jacksonville, which when you play your opponent on the road, your division opponent on the road, it's always tougher. Um, they're at Seattle. That's going to be a tough game. They finish the season out at Houston. That's a tough game. So that's where I
Yeah.
could kind of see another 4 losses possibly.
Right.
Um, Ultimately, the ceiling without being a homer of how far they can go. Look, if I'm basing it strictly on what I've seen so far, there's
Yeah.
no
Just
reason
the
for me
eye
to
test.
say just off of the eye test, there's no reason for me to and watching the other teams and what I've seen from them, I have no reason to think that they can't, at the very minimum, make the AFC Championship game. And that's coming a long ways from when I told you preseason that, hey, let's
Win
win
one
week 1
game
and
and
I'm
you'll be
good.
happy.
And I'm good. But from what I've seen, their Steichen's offense is so consistent and so dominant. And yeah, again, we can say, okay, yeah, they're playing the Sisters of the Poor every other week. Okay, fine, but you play who's in front of you. And what they're doing is they're annihilating the Sisters of the Poor regardless of who they are. And so, um, from what I've seen, playing consistent enough, they haven't reached a I don't know if you want to call it a bad spell or a dead spell where they're just not playing well. They've been well enough regardless of who they're playing to win these games and get to 7-1 and almost 8-0. I would say that I could see them going to the AFC Championship game at this point. Would I say the Super Bowl? No, because if the AFC title game is against Buffalo, I think Buffalo has so much more experience of getting that
Mhm.
far that is a factor in regards to it doesn't matter where the game's played. If it's played in Buffalo, it's a definite edge to Buffalo. But if it was played in Indy, I'd still give the edge to Buffalo because they have way more experience than the Colts
Yep.
do.
Yep.
So I think AFC title game right now is what I could see them against Buffalo, and I think Buffalo still goes.
And I think an important point that you made, what was the fact that you know, oh God, I lost my thought. I honestly
I
lost
guess it
my
wasn't
thought.
that important.
It was very important. It was very
Probably
important,
the
but
experience factor.
no, it was before that. But I mean, regardless, and maybe it's my old age kicking in. Say what you will about that. Keep your comments to a minimum, please. Ultimately, though, I would agree with you that if you run into Buffalo, which we all know that I started the season saying I'm riding that train until Buffalo
And
wins,
so did I. So did I.
and I have such a hard time betting against Josh Allen, and they can lay eggs against Atlanta, but then they turn around a couple weeks later and beat Carolina 40-9 like they did today, behind 2 rushing touchdowns from Josh Allen and James Cook, who is a fantastic running back in his own right, doing well this
Yep.
year. but I don't know. And then you figure, there's talk about the Patriots. Maybe they're now going to win the East. They took care of the Browns. Well, you could argue, okay, well, it's the Browns, and then on the same side, Buffalo. Well, it's the Panthers. But that just goes to show that teams can lay eggs. But I remember now what it was is a very important point that you brought up was about the fact of laying eggs. We as teams, it's almost expected to not lay those eggs, to take care of
Mhm.
business against those teams that you should take care of business against, which you alluded to. But it's those when you it's almost like those trap games.
Yeah.
Oh, is this a trap game? Well, okay, at 6-1, is Tennessee a trap game? It's division. They're looking ahead to Pittsburgh, yada yada, whatever. But then what happens? They come out. Steichen has them ready. Jones does his thing. Taylor obviously bespoke how he did his thing. So there you go. That's what good teams do. They never play down to opponents.
Here, I'll give you a trap game for the Colts. I think the trap game is actually this coming week against the Steelers. Reason I say that is the following week they go to Berlin to play the Falcons. And I think you kind of get caught looking ahead at an international game. Again, I could be completely wrong because the Colts haven't been looking past people. But I think if there is one, it's Pittsburgh, because you're going to Pittsburgh and you're saying, I don't really want to, let's go play. Maybe we'll win. I don't really want to deal with playing that defense and knowing what might be coming at us, and TJ Watt flying all over the place like freaking Batman. So I kind of, I could see that being a trap game. The game I don't see being a trap game, though, for the Colts, but could be for the Chiefs, is I think the Colts actually have a good shot at going into Kansas City and winning that game, because after the Berlin game is their bye week. So they get a chance to be healthy and 2 weeks to prep for Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a trap game for Kansas City more than it is for the Colts. So I actually like the Colts to go to Berlin, win. I like them to go into Kansas City and win. But I think the one that's a trap game is this one coming up that's just kind of just hanging in the middle there against Pittsburgh. And so you may have bragging rights after next Sunday, and that's fine. But look, I'm just being honest. It kind of feels like a trap game now that you say that. It feels like a trap game to me for the Colts. You had this easy cakewalk against Tennessee, took care of business, and then you have Pittsburgh, but that's in between going international to
Mm-hmm.
Berlin to play your game. And so again, I just sit back and I go, I don't know. Steichen's had him up and ready, but that one feels just a little bit like it might be a loss.
Well, don't get too carried away over the idea of having a bye week after an international game, because that's what the Steelers did, and then they came back, a week later and laid that egg against Cincinnati. I I don't even want to say laid an egg, because it's not like they didn't score, they didn't compete. The defense laid an egg and let
Well,
Flacco.
the other difference with that, again, I have no statistics to back this up, but that was a Thursday night game. I mean, it wasn't like it was a regular Sunday game. So
No, and
you didn't have a full 2 weeks.
Pittsburgh's been known. Mike Tomlin's been known to struggle at times on Thursdays. As good as his primetime record is, Thursday night games has been a struggle for him.
Can I be
Last
honest with
year,
you? I don't count a Thursday night game as a primetime game. That to me is just a bullshit slot. I could care less about that game. I'm dead serious. I'd care less about Thursday game. If the Colts get a Thursday game, I ain't paying Prime Video to watch it. I tell you that right now. I'm not. I care less. That's the one
I
game I
bet
won't watch.
I bet you will if they're 12-1, looking to lock up the
No, hell
division. Or
no. Hell no.
no,
No.
no, you
Nope.
want
No, sir.
man.
No, sir. Nope. Nope.
Well, we'll see. I'll have to make sure to
They
get a
don't
hold of
play
your
any
wife.
Thursday games this year, so I don't have to worry about it.
Oh well, there you go then. There you go. Well,
Now, if it's a
lucky you.
playoff game, they put one playoff game on Prime, right?
I know they do.
That is such garbage. So if they do that,
It
you're
is
darn
garbage.
right I'll be paying for it. And unfortunately, that
It
sucks.
is garbage. It is garbage. We talk all the time about the greed with people now in corporations. Well, NFL is showing its true colors in the last few years with this, and NFL wants money. These other people want money. Yada yada, whatever. The streaming thing. The idea about streaming a game on Netflix. It's streaming on Netflix. Last year was like the Christmas Day game or whatever. Like, come on, just go back to the good old days of It's either on CBS, it's on Fox, and that's
Yep.
it. You may or may not get it. If you don't, then go to a bar and watch it or whatever.
And your Sunday night game is on NBC, which is still a regular network. I'm okay
Right.
with that. That's all it needs to be. I mean,
Right.
why ESPN got the rights to Monday Night Football and then said, for a while they said, well, we're just going to air it on ESPN and not ABC. How stupid are you?
Right.
So many more people have ABC because they have their rabbit ears still, and they could watch the game as opposed to having to pay for cable or YouTube TV or whoever carries ESPN at this point. Why would
Right.
you not do a simulcast with ABC? That's because you share rights with the company. How stupid can you be? Put it on ABC at the same time. Good Pete.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Sunday Night Football and NBC, that's obviously when our show comes out, the game will have been gone and over with, and hopefully
Okay,
the
so hey,
Steelers.
do the Steelers beat the Packers tonight?
I think they do. I think they do, and here's why. Number one is because Pittsburgh historically, whenever they go out and have a game like and lose against a team like Cincinnati, who again is still, I don't care what happened in that game, they are still better than Cincinnati. But a lot of times when that happens, they'll come back the next week and have it together. Secondly, Rodgers is going to be fired up for this game. I mean, he's fired up already, but despite how he talks about, I have no animosity toward that
He's gonna be fired up.
organization, and I don't buy into these payback games and this, that, and the other thing. And but I do think this is a game where he's gonna, Tom is gonna have them ready. Rodgers is gonna be ready, and there's a lot offensively that they can build off from Cincinnati. And having that mini bye, if you will, to
Mhm.
get ready for this, I think defensively they're gonna. You're gonna see some names or hear some names mentioned tonight that you haven't heard much of in recent weeks. The TJ Watts, the Cam Haywards. I expect a big rebound game from Joey Porter Jr., who, my God, he can't. He probably couldn't help but have a penalty against me if I lined up against him. That's how bad he's playing right now with these. I mean, he's water skiing out there the way he's pulling jerseys. Um,
Well,
but anyway,
I think the Steelers get it done tonight too because the Packers offense is so woefully inconsistent, and that is in large part to Jordan Love. He can't decide whether he wants to be an above average quarterback or an average quarterback.
and
And so, I think, again, it's not to take away from the Steelers. I just think it's kind of the right combination of Green Bay not being proficient on offense, and they're on the road at Pittsburgh. Rodgers is amped up. The Steelers' defense is always, at least they leave you a little bit confused on what they're bringing. So I like the Steelers. I like the Steelers tonight.
not just each play, but each game, they leave you confused as to what they're bringing. But I feel like, like I said, this is the type of game where uh, uh, it, it's right there for them. Again, it's at home. They have back to back at home. Just don't look ahead to next week. There's no reason to. Enjoy the night now. Forget all the distractions about Rodgers and his former team. And that's another thing. Like we talked about, I think last week we made mention about the media and how they blow things up. But
I was just gonna say that.
they always blow this stuff up. Like Rodgers' former team and revenge game. Revenge game. He was on a team between Green Bay and Pittsburgh. You didn't talk about the revenge game when they played the Jets earlier. Like can it just be like this is professional sports? It's 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 not unheard of for players to be on different teams. Like you don't have to call it a revenge game. He's even said there's no animosity, yada yada, whatever. But again, to my initial point, I think you are going to see some plays from guys that we even heard from in recent weeks. Like I said, I think Herbig might make an impact. Despite their last showing, their defense I think is going to do a lot better because number one, the Packers don't really have a number one receiver. They're not
No.
going up against the Jamar Chases and the T Higginses of the world. They're going up against um, Marcus Golden and Romeo Dobbs and you know
Who?
uh, um, yeah, right, exactly. So they don't have any ones. They have a bunch of twos and threes. So
Yeah.
I feel like if there's a get right game for them, on the back end of the defense that has struggled, I think this is it. On the flip
Hell,
side,
if I think if we put
uh,
a Green Bay helmet on your head, we can make you look like Jordy Nelson out there.
yeah, there you go. There you go. I do kind of look like him. But, not on the flip side, but on the other side of it for Green Bay too, Josh Jacobs, a heck of a running back, but he's only averaging 3, 4 yards a carry, so he's not lighting the world on fire. He gets the bulk of his touchdowns from, inside the red zone, inside the 10. Um, but he is also a threat in the passing game. But yeah, ultimately, I see them winning. I told someone earlier today if I was betting on this game, I would take the over. But now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I would. I forget what it is now, but I don't think it's going to be that high
I was gonna say,
scoring.
what's the point total? I don't even know.
I'm not sure.
You
Let
would
me-
make me look this up.
no, I
Of
got it
course,
right
they
here.
already started. I didn't realize they just
45,
started. My bad.
45 and a half.
I'll take the under. Under.
Yeah.
I was
So
gonna
I'm
say like 23. I was gonna say like 23-13 Steelers.
Well, so I'm saying 20, 24, yeah, 24-17, 24-14, ish. So right, not crazy under, but it is, five or so points with the net under. So, um, I just think they're gonna get it done, and we'll be heading into staying home, heading into next week's game. Looking to expand that winning streak and put Danny Dimes on his hind end and making him wish that
That that's the only thing that was concerning today about today's game. They did give up 3 sacks to Danny Dimes. Now, I would whether you say that's on the offensive line, I kind of felt like Mr. Jones held on to the ball a little too long instead of just getting rid of it. So whether
oh,
you want to
Mr.
call that
Jones now.
yeah, Mr. Jones, yeah,
Next thing you
Mr.
know, you're gonna be playing Counting Crows next thing you know.
I figure I call him Mr. Jones because I'm a little displeased.
Staring at beautiful women.
But I mean,
No,
you know what? One other quick thing: the third touchdown that Jonathan Taylor had today. Does it have to be really called a passing touchdown if you literally just scoop pass it to the running back in front of you? Because Jones is here, Taylor's right here, and Taylor runs across and Jones just scoops it forward to him, right? Like just like a little hop pass to him. And they call that a passing touchdown. I'm like, give me a break.
so hang on a minute, because if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I very well could be, but is that not how Peyton Manning set the touchdown record, or got his like 50th or something one year? It was just a little dinky shovel pass or whatever.
Maybe in Denver, but not in Indy. When he broke the record in Indy, he threw a seam pass down the middle of slot receiver Brandon Stokely against the Chargers. I'll never forget it.
I swear there was some play he did with the Colts where it was this dinky
No,
little shovel pass that got him a record.
nope.
It was worse than when Favre fell down to give Strahan the sack record. Like
Yeah,
that was
but you don't. But okay, but going back
no
to the
no. I
original
I know
point,
what you're saying.
why is that not a rushing touchdown? I mean, you literally just hop the ball to the
Right,
guy literally 6 inches, and you're calling that a pass for
right.
19-yard touchdowns? Give me a break.
Yeah, yeah.
That
I
was all
agree.
Jonathan Taylor, just called a rushing touchdown.
I agree. Definitely agree. All right. Well, any final thoughts, Curtis, before we part ways and I go watch my Steelers to victory? I'm setting myself up to look terrible. Eat eat crow in 24 to 48 hours if they lose. Regardless, final thoughts,
Yeah.
Curtis.
Well, I mean, don't worry about eating crow. I mean, you have no say over the game, right? You get to sit back, enjoy the team that you like to watch, see how they do. I mean, that's the important thing. Enjoy it, right? I mean, don't worry about the outcome. You have no say on that. So you
Well, I
can't
mean,
do
win,
enough Hail Marys to save you, let alone save them.
win or lose, God willing, I'll be waking up and going to work tomorrow anyway. So
Well, and that's my point. So that's my final thought is you know what? Enjoy the game that you're watching. And don't let it dictate. We've talked in the past. Don't let it dictate how you feel tomorrow, because when you wake up tomorrow, it's a new day. It's new experiences. It's another opportunity to go forth and spread the gospel, the good word, and to show people the love of Christ. And so enjoy the game tonight, and then wake up tomorrow, and whatever the result is, who cares? Let it be. It'll be all right.
it will be all right. With that being said, this has been the C Squared podcast on behalf of Curtis, David Hodger, and myself, thank you for watching. Like and share us on Facebook. Continue to get the word out. God bless everybody. We'll see you next time.